Members, we formed a quorum and it's also the scheduled time. May I call the meeting to order? Since the last meeting, we haven't got any information papers issued. Items for discussion at the next meeting, which is scheduled for the 15th of it was originally scheduled for the 15th of December. However, at the request of the administration, we advance it to the 8th of December, starting from 8:30 a.m. And the proposed items for discussion is the major traffic, transport and develop blueprint, as well as initial recommendations of the traffic and transport strategic study. So do we all agree? The meeting is scheduled from the 15th to the 8th of December at 8:30 p.m. The Secretariat will remind you in due course. If there are no further questions, we will invite the administration to join us. We're here to receive a briefing by the Secretary for Transport and Logistics on the Chief Executive's 2023 policy address. Members, you may press the request to speak button if you so wish. We have to control the time today. Hopefully, we can end the meeting at around 12:10. So depending on the number of members who wish to speak, I will adjust the speaking time. Welcome to you, Secretary for Transport and Logistics and Permanent Secretary, as well as your team. All right. When officials are ready, I will invite the Secretary to start. Over to you, Mr. Lam. Good morning, Chair. I'd like to brief members on the 2023 policy address related to policy measures of the Transport Bureau. Now, on traffic infrastructure, we adopt the infrastructure-led and capacity-creating planning principles in planning taking forward transport infrastructure projects. The purpose is to unleash the development potential of new development areas. We plan to publish the Hong Kong Major Transport Infrastructure Development Blueprint by the end of this year to outline the major transport infrastructure, the implementation to improve the railway and major road networks, to drive continuous developments of Hong Kong and to facilitate commuting. The blueprint will consolidate all major transport infrastructure, including newly proposed projects and the projects under planning, design and construction, which will serve as a reference for the government to take forward major traffic infrastructure and development projects. The blueprint will include the enhanced 3 railways and 3 major road proposals recommended under the strategic studies on traffic and major roads beyond 2023. The enhanced proposals include the provision of 3 intermediate stations at Northeast Tsuen Wan, Northeast Kwai Chung and Chun King Circuit on the Central Rail Link and transit to the MTR Tsuen Wan line. The 2 railways and 1 major road projects will be conducive to the development of the new towns in the eastern part of the northern metropolis, including the Northern Link Eastern Extension, Northeast Territorial Line, North Metropolis Highways, etc. The blueprint will also cover the smart and green mass transit railways in East Kowloon, Kai Tak, and Hong Shui Kiu, Ha Chun. We have started the preparatory work for a smart and green mass transit systems, including planning, investigation, and design. We plan to invite local and overseas suppliers or operators of smart and green mass transport systems to submit expressions of interest for the projects in East Kowloon and Kai Tak in 2024 so as to finalize the details of implementation and tender requirements. We will also press ahead with railway and road projects, those being planned and under construction. Will continue to take forward various local railway projects in an orderly manner, including the Tung Chung Line Extension, Oyster Bay Station, Tuen Mun South Extension, and Northern Link Phase 1. They started earlier this year, and for Hong Shui Kiu Station and NOR Main Line, they will commence in 2024 and 2025 respectively for progressive completion from 2027 onwards. As regards cross-boundary railway projects, we'll continue to pursue cross-boundary railway projects through the Task Force for Hong Kong-Shenzhen Cooperation on Cross-Boundary Railway Infrastructure. The second stage study of the Hong Kong-Shenzhen West Rail link Hong Shui-Kiu-Tianhai expected to be completed in mid-2024, and we're actively following up the implementation arrangement of the NOL spur line. We expect to commence the detailed planning and design in 2024. We, to cater for the traffic needs arising from the Northwest NT, we are taking for a group of roads comprising Route 11, Tsingyi, Lantau Link, and widening of a section of Yunnan Highway and Two Moon Bypass. We're going to consult members on the detailed design of Route 11 and Two Moon Bypass next year. We will strive to commission these projects progressively in or before 2023. The Traffic and Transport Strategic Study, TTSS. Apart from the hardware support, we have formally commenced the Traffic and Transport Strategic Study in end 2021 to map a long-term strategic blueprint for Hong Kong so that the overall transport system in Hong Kong will continue to be reliable, safe, smart, environmentally friendly, and highly efficient. We have come up with 4 transport strategic concepts. We consulted a panel in last July, and the plan is to formulate the initial recommendations under the TTSS by the end of this year and to roll out various pilot schemes progressively, starting from next year, with a view to promulgating a long-term strategy blueprint in 2025. Northbound travel for Hong Kong vehicles is an important policy measure. It started in July 1st. As at yesterday, we received a total of about 33,000 applications, among which about 27,000 applications have completed all the procedures of the 2 places and are eligible for travel. During the long weekend in October for Chongyang Festival, a record high of 4,000 trips were made between Hong Kong and Zhuhai. To make it easier for the public, TD has launched a one-stop online application system to allow participants of the scheme to travel at ease, safely, and convenience for integration into the GBA. For smart mobility, on local transport, we continue to promote various smart mobility initiatives, making use of technology like sensor detection, AI, big data analytics, so on and so forth, to increase transport and traffic demand. This will bring a more convenient and smooth commuting experience for the public. On promoting autonomous vehicles, we will provide flexible regulatory framework for AVs to cope with the ever-changing AV technology and facilitate the industry to carry out trial and use of AVs in Hong Kong. The Road Traffic Amendment Autonomous Vehicles Bill 2022 were introduced and passed in May this year. We are currently drafting the relevant subsidiary legislation and target to table it before electrical for scrutiny by the end of this year. Now, since May this year, Hong Kong e-toll has started at all 6 government-tolled tunnels or control areas, and we plan to implement Hong Kong e-toll at the remaining 2 government-tolled tunnels. With Hong Kong e-toll, we're able to commence time-varying tolls at the 3 road harbour crossings on December 17th this year. The objective is to suppress and divert cross-harbour traffic during peak hours, thereby encouraging commuters to switch to the public transport or use the RHCs outside peak hours. We'll continue to step up publicity so that the public can fully grasp the specific toll arrangements. To respond to public demand for parking spaces, better spatial efficiency, and increased parking density, we're actively implementing automated parking system APS projects. The Airport Authority of Hong Kong is constructing automated car parks on the Hong Kong Port Island of HZMB for use by transit passengers or inbound visitors from Guangdong and Macau. The project is expected to be completed in phases by end 2024, and it can provide over 3,000 automated car parking spaces. In 2021, we set up the $1 billion Smart Traffic Fund to provide funding support to organizations or enterprises to conduct research on vehicle-related technologies so as to facilitate motorist commuting to enhance transport efficiency and traffic safety. As at end October, we have approved 44 applications involving a total funding of over $270 billion. We'll continue to encourage more organizations to apply for the fund. For technology application and road safety, we will present a bill to the Council to allow the police to issue electronic fixed penalty tickets to increase the overall efficiency of traffic enforcement actions and to try and affect, thereby improving the driving attitude of motorists. Improvement of public transport services. We have reviewed the overall taxi operation and management and proposed a host of measures to enhance personalized point-to-point transport services. One of the key measures is the introduction of a taxi fleet regime. Existing taxi owners will be encouraged to form a fleet and apply to TD to address the aspiration for quality taxi services. We introduced a relevant bill to the Council for scrutiny on the 12th of July this year. The Bills Committee has just completed the scrutiny of the bills. In early November, we strive to resume the second reading debate of the bills at the Council meeting as soon as possible. Now, for scaling up capability in coping with extreme weather, under inclement weather, we have to ensure the safety of the public and visitors. In the light of the strike of Typhoon Kauni in October this year, the government has requested MTLCL to study thoroughly and cautiously the suspension arrangement of the Airport Express under Tropical Cyclone Warning Signal number 9, and also the feasibility of enhancing early warning and information dissemination. The purpose is to minimize the impact on the public and visitors under the principle of safety. I have briefed the Council on the policy initiatives and priorities of the Bureau for the coming year. Myself and my team are happy to take questions from members. Thank you. Mr. Lam, I will give the floor to members. May I remind members that under our OP 83A, if you have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest in any of the items on the agenda today, please disclose the nature of the interest involved before you speak. There are 11 members waiting to speak. Dr. Lo Wai Kok, Lam So Wai, Michael Tin, Frankie Yik, Sari Lee, Regina Ip, Chen Hock Fong, Chao Siu Chung, Chen Siu Hong, Stanley Lee, Yu Pak Lang, Tan Kai, Piu Yim Kong, Yang Wen Kin, An Mian Yu, Tony Zhe, Chen Hang Pan. Each can have up to 4 minutes for both questions and answers. Dr. Lo Wai Kok. Thank you, Chair. First, let me declare interest when it comes to traffic infrastructure. Of course, the AA is a party, and I'm a member of the AA Airport Authority. I have to declare interest. Well, the policy address has devoted a lot of passage to transport, bringing new hopes. I have to say that, well, we have the solutions here already. Why are we looking for it elsewhere? Let me quote an example. In 2014, we have the RDS Railway Development Strategy. Talk about the fast rail for Hong Kong Shenzhen, Western Hong Kong Shenzhen. The decision of the government was not to do it. I already said that the proposed alignment back then may not be the best, but we should explore the feasibility because the twin city interaction between Hong Kong and Shenzhen is an important part of the GBA development, and we need better connection between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. So we still have to consider this Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail Link. So for reasons unknown to us, we have wasted so many years, and there are 7 railways proposed under the RDS for 9 years have elapsed and nothing has happened. It's only in 2023 that we've seen the start of some of the proposals, including the East Kowloon extension. Anyway, we have to look forward to the proposals in this year's policy address. There are infrastructure projects proposed. Some of them are old, some of them are new ones. We have the enhanced 3 railways and 3 major roads proposals. They are good news to the public anyway. So what is the point of transport infrastructure? To facilitate passenger and goods flow. So we have to facilitate the public. Recently, I received a request for complaint. Cross-boundary vehicle drivers in the mainland, they cannot apply for prior approval, and therefore prefabricated construction items cannot be sent to construction sites in Hong Kong. According to the Labour Department, under the Factories and Industrial Undertakings legislation, all vehicle drivers need to have a safety card or the green card in order to enter construction sites in Hong Kong. Your time is up. Now, they have to go through training before they can apply for a green card, and the Immigration Department regard these mainland construction vehicle drivers as visitors. They are not regarded as being lawfully employed in Hong Kong. So traffic infrastructure is about proper administrative measures to make it easy for the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Low, for your questions, and also thank you for your support in our policy direction. In relation to green card to be issued to cross-boundary drivers, that's the first time I heard about this problem. I will promise you, after the meeting, I will liaise with relevant departments to deal with the issue, because we have many components being transported from the mainland to Hong Kong, and a lot of the drivers aren't local. We definitely have to deal with the problem, and we'll follow up on that. Thank you. Next, Ms. Lam So Wai. Thank you. I would like to thank the Secretary for taking our suggestion about the construction of a mass transit system. So the mass transit system will go to Ma Yau Tong. Unfortunately, it does not accommodate the needs of residents in uphill areas in Tseung Kwan O. In fact, in the 2014 Railway Development Study, I think Dr. Bernard Chan may know, we asked to have a station set up at Lois Park. So we can't really respond to the needs of the residents in the area. Would you elaborate on why there is no such proposal in place? And we've also talked about the implementation of the e-toll, but many residents of Tseung Kwan O have expressed difficulties. Before there was auto toll, they didn't need to queue. Every morning in the Eastern Harbour Crossing these days, they will have 2 e-toll lanes, and vehicles would keep on switching lanes, and if one is unfortunate, there will be traffic accidents. So it would take half an hour to get from Chen Lam Tunnel to the entrance of Eastern Harbour Crossing, and when at the entrance of the Eastern Harbour Crossing, there are only 2 lanes and people keep switching lanes. So will you consider widening Eastern Harbour Crossing, or will you have additional e-toll lanes? And in fact, yesterday, I was just told by a resident that they had problems with e-toll. So will you deal with that? Another thing is with the Lantern Tunnel, Tseung Kwan O Lantern Tunnel. And I think there wasn't any public consultation, and the functions of the Tseung Kwan O Yau Tong Tunnel has overlapped with the Tseung Kwan O Lam Tin Tunnel. So please just construct another cross-harbor tunnel. Later we'll have Area 137 in Trang Quan O. You really have to alleviate traffic in the area. Otherwise, there's just going to be congestion in Eastern Harbor Crossing again. That's it for me at the moment. Thank you. Secretary, please. Well, I'll have the Deputy Commissioner answer the question about the E-tunnel. And Trang Quan O Yao Tong Tunnel was first proposed in last year's policy address, and in the transport infrastructure blueprint will include that. And I'll let my colleague answer the question. Mr. Jimmy Chan, please. The green transit system will go from Choi Hong and the uphill areas in East Kowloon and go to Ma Yau Tong. And in the 2014 railway development study, the routing was supposed to go to Trang Quan O and Po Lam. But if it has to be extended to Po Lam, there are technical difficulties because of the terrain. And the route would have to go through the ridge line of near public housing estates. There is thus much technical difficulty. And we will set up a station in eastern Yau Tong that is close to Ma Yau Tong. And that should facilitate people transiting to Trang Quan O line. And residents in the uphill areas of East Kowloon should be easier. It should make it easier for them to transit back to Hong Kong Island. We believe it is better than the proposal that it has the route extended to Po Lam. Well, can you please give a brief response in relation to other parts of the question? Thank you. Ms. Angela Lee, please. For the Eastern Harbor Crossing, we have 2 lanes to avoid the issue of traffic switching lanes for traffic coming from Kwun Tong. We can follow up on the specific routes after the meeting with the member concerned. And for the planning of Trang Quan O, we do understand there will be more residents in Area 137. So we have made some plans. Secretary, please answer this when other members ask this question because we are past the time limit. Next, Mr. Michael Tian, please. With first the Central Railway link, and I also want to ask about the setting up of a railways department. So before we have the Northwest New Territories line that won't go to Chun Wan. But people have experienced difficulty with getting onto the East Rail Line trains. So we are asking you to extend the East Rail Line. So we hope that it can, now that you have the routing that goes to Kowloon Tong Station, so that has met my concerns halfway. But for those who want to go to Chun Wan, they have to take a longer route by going through Chun King Circuit. So have you done some simulations to estimate how many residents will actually take advantage of the new intermediate stations so as to justify the $20 billion to be spent? And if the proposal is to be submitted to the Finance Committee, I will ask the questions again, should I not get any answers. If you do not provide adequate justification, it will be hard for me to support the proposal. And in November of 2018, since there has been the incident at the MTR station with the Shatin Central Link, I've asked for the establishment of a railways department, but we haven't heard anything for many years. Until June of this year, I asked that you submit a preliminary proposal before July of next year about the setting up of railways department. We have more and more stations, but there have been many different incidents lately, and we even have 2 large-scale incidents in one single month. And it is said that screen doors will only be installed in all stations by the end of 2025. But I asked for it to be expedited to the end of next year, but my requests aren't heeded. So now I'm asking again. Is it the case that you will indeed implement such arrangements? It's just that you're fleshing out the details. We have proposed a central rail link last year. And early this year, we have done some consultation and we have made adjustments. When the central rail link is commissioned, we'll have more figures. And we'll definitely respond to any public feedback that may arise then. In relation to the establishment of a railways department, as you may know, for local and cross-boundary railway projects in the northern metropolis, we are in pressing need to take forward such projects. So in the department, we have set up a Northern Metropolis Railways office to deal with the railway projects in and near Northern Metropolis. The Northern Metropolis Railways Office, NMRO, has set out the general direction and we're just fleshing out the details. Well, members, I'll draw the line here. For those who have yet to press the request to speak button, please press the button now. I'll draw the line after Mr. Frankie Yik speaks. Mr. Frankie Yik, please. Well, in paragraph 4 of the paper, it is said that the proposal for 3 railways and 3 major roads will be enhanced, and that 2 railways and 1 major road proposal will be proposed. And while we do support the direction, we are always worried because businesses may be affected for red minibuses. In fact, after the commissioning of certain routes, the business of red minibuses has decreased. So before the commissioning of railway lines, can the administration liaise with us so that we can liaise with the trade to make sure that businesses won't have to be closed down? There's constant contraction in business of these operators, so please respond to the needs of these trade people.
In paragraph 27, it is mentioned that the government is trying hard to turn green minibuses to GMBs. We have about 9,000 of them in the market, but I believe we need no more than 500 red minibuses in Hong Kong. So there are about 400 extra. I understand that the government is developing new GMB routes, but then the progress is too slow. you've only developed one or a few new routes in the past. And even for GMBs, according to latest information, unless we talk about routes to hospitals or crossing points, 70% of them are incurring losses. So if we think that we can gradually phase out minibuses in Hong Kong, you should let the industry know sooner. Otherwise, you have to think of way to salvaging them, because some of them spend millions of dollars to purchase a license. And in para 23, the government talks about parking spaces. You have got new measures, but you only talk about provision of private car parking spaces, but not commercial vehicles. Now, we have got the ratio is 1 to 6, and you haven't changed that ratio for a long time, and commercial drivers find it difficult because the companies may only be willing to underwrite a certain number of fixed penalty tickets per month. Beyond that, drivers are expected to pay the fines themselves, and that's part of the reason why we have fewer commercial vehicle drivers in Hong Kong, because many of them have switched to other trades instead. So the sector really faces problems. So please give us KPIs and tell us the number of additional parking spaces for commercial vehicles by a certain date. Now we're told that the TTKS or the TTSS can only be completed in 2025, with measures to be rolled out in phases in 2025. So can you tell us how this will address the problem of minibuses? Secretary, I will defer to the PS. Thank you, Mr. Yik, for the 4 points you mentioned. In the interest of time, I think we can discuss in greater details after the meeting. The first question is how we rationalize other means of public transport with commissioning of new railway links. I agree with Mr. Yik that we can start discussion with the industry earlier. But we have to understand the traveling pattern of passengers after the commissioning of a new rail link. But of course, we will discuss with the industry. And as for minibuses, we recognize the value and the need for minibuses in Hong Kong. With regard to the future development of minibuses and GMBs, and also aspirations from new development areas, we will conduct an overall review later. Please discuss with Mr. Yek after the meeting, because we are a bit behind. I hope members can leave more time for the administration to respond. I will be stricter from now on. Ms. Sarili. Thank you, Chair. I thank the administration for taking on board the wish of the residents, in particular, to put in place a smart and green mass transit system in Kai Tak, which was once off the shelf and now is back again. I believe there is still room for improvement when it comes to the overall planning, as said by the Secretary, in terms of tendering and discussing with the sector. Can you adopt a more open approach? Now, we're grateful that you have extended the East Kowloon extension. We want to have a change at Chi Wan Shan. I understand that you may not be able to do it in one go, but in your technical study, can you please don't rule out suggestions from the residents? For instance, the East Kowloon extension, please consider the needs of Chi Wan Shan, which the CE has just visited. And I think there should also be a link to Kwun Tong. You're not able to cover the cruise terminal. Currently, the infrastructure there is rather pathetic. So can you widen the scope of your tendering documents so that we can see whether the link can be completed in phases, or is it because it's too costly? Another question is about northbound vehicles. Northbound travel for Hong Kong vehicles. I welcome the measure. It is a national policy to encourage more people to live, work, and study in cities of GBA. Now, instead of having a vehicle examination center in Hong Kong, you should just unify the examination process. There is no need to subject a vehicle to two examinations. So one examination should suffice for both the needs of Hong Kong and the mainland, so as to streamline the process. Secretary, thank you. Ms. Lee, for your questions. The smart and green mass transit system in East Kowloon and Kai Tak. I note the comments of Ms. Lee. We have considered the matter in taking forward the project. We will continue to listen to the views of the public, and we will also address these comments. As for whether we can provide more leeway in the tendering exercise, we will take that into consideration. Given that Qiwenshan is an older area, there are technical constraints and challenges. If we are building a more costly and longer and complicated system to the extent that it will not be cost effective, is that really beneficial? All these factors will be taken into account. We will see whether we can put in place some measures. If in the future technical constraints can be overcome, can the system be extended to cover that area? We will consider that. Yes, and as for northbound travel for Hong Kong vehicles, we'll continue to liaise with the mainland authorities to see whether we can have further enhancement measures in terms of vehicle examination. Thank you. Mrs. Regina Yip. Thank you, Chair. The government would like to have better integration with the mainland. We have both northbound travel and southbound travel for vehicles, but for the Octopus card, still it cannot be used across the border. Last Wednesday, I asked an oral question. The government would only regard the Octopus card as a mobile payment device or instrument. In fact, it is a card for traveling. Now, if we can bundle up the Octopus card with a mainland traveling card, then it would be good. But then the technology used is already a dated system. It's not in compliance. ISO 14443. The whole world is using ISO 14443 Type A for Octopus card. It claimed that it is in compliance with ISO. In fact, it is just about compatibility. Now, Octopus was first designed in 1997. It is not the same technology as that being used in the mainland. It wanted to join ISO 14444 Type 3, but was rejected. It is not asymmetric encryption. So the Secretary evaded such issues in the oral question. So the Octopus card is not just a mobile payment device. It is also for traveling. And what is the Secretary's response? It's true that the purpose of Octopus card was meant to be a mobile payment device. I think Mrs. Regina Ib raised some very technical issues. I will take them back to the Octopus Card Company to see how the card can be more widely used for other purposes, so that in the mainland, in addition to being a mobile payment device, is a room for the scope of application to be expanded. Just one more sentence. To put it simply, because it is still using a dated Zunli card, it is not in compliance with the mainland computing arrangement, and is also not an ISO 1443 Type A approach. Why is it still using a Zunli card? Noted. Mr. Chen Hofeng. I wish to commend the Highways Department. I'm very grateful to the department because during the torrential rain, the department was able to reopen Shackle Road after the landslip so that residents could use the road once again. I must commend the department for having responded so swiftly. Now, perhaps this is not for this bureau. It may involve another bureau. But I just want to say that in case of extreme weather, do we have alternative passages for places like Shackle? I think it is worthy of consideration. And I'd like to express my dissatisfaction. We asked for the western extension of the Southern Island Line for many times, but then there is no mention of it in the policy address. This is very important for the long-term development of the Southern District, and it hasn't taken the opportunity given by the redevelopment of Wafu Estate. I urge the Secretary to think about timetable for construction of the Southern Island Line Western extension. And now for the reclamation of Khao Yi Jiao in central waters that will add to the burden of the Northern Island Line. And I think the Admiralty Northern Line is an important part to address the traffic congestion or the to enhance the capacity of the MTRCL. Another question is, the police and the transport department are carrying out AI enforcement at Queen's Road Central. I'd like to know the outcome and whether it will be extended to other areas. Of course, having a policeman there is the best, but this cannot be a long-term arrangement. So you should gradually extend this arrangement to other districts. I'd like to know whether the department plans to extend the scheme to other areas and what is the outcome of the exercise in Central.
I believe there are 4 questions. For the last question, I'll have the Commissioner of Transport respond to that. I would like to thank the member for giving us praises in inclement weather conditions or in extreme weather. It's not just this bureau. The administration has to work together to minimize the impact caused to citizens. For Shackle Road, we have 2-lane doorway carriageway there, or road there. If we need to construct another road there, It is difficult, but we'll see what we can do for South Island and North Island line. In the end of this year, we may talk about them in the transport infrastructure blueprint, so please wait for a bit. For the two projects, we will talk about the arrangements about these in the blueprint. Commissioner for Transport, please, brief response, please. Thank you. Now, the smart enforcement system is taken forward in both Central as well as Hoyun Road in Kuntong. We have made use of AI to see if there is any illegal parking. Because it is machine learning, we need to review the effectiveness with the police on the enforcement results. Next, Mr. Chao Siu-chung, please. As Mr. Frankie Yik already talked about the difficulties faced by drivers, I will not repeat them. I just want to make sure the sites that are left vacant should be converted to car parks as soon as possible. So what is the progress of the initiative that I want to know? And I also appreciate the administration opening up schools for the parking of school buses, but there are not a lot of schools participating in the initiative. Will the administration consider providing incentives to schools so that more school buses can park in schools? And in paragraph 27, it mentions the importation of foreign labor for the public light bus trade, as well as the coach trade. I know that there is importation of labor for airport operations as well. Can you talk about the progress? It is said by the administration that you prioritize local employment. But have you done anything in terms of the training of local talents? And for the labor importation schemes, most of them are low-skilled labor. And have you considered working with the employee retraining board to have on-the-job training programs so that females can be hired and they can undertake on-the-job training while participating in the scheme? So does the administration have any plans if they do not have any measures in place? Thank you. Well, I will let the Permanent Secretary answer the question about labor importation schemes. As for the number of parking spaces, we have all along been working on providing more parking spaces for commercial vehicles, for example, providing more such spaces in short-term tenancy car parks. And we have, as you said, liaised with schools to provide parking spaces in the night time for commercial vehicles and school buses. And on the premise of not endangering traffic safety in certain road sections, when there is less traffic, we can provide more parking spaces for commercial vehicles, and we have been implementing such initiatives in different districts across the territory to increase the number of parking spaces for commercial vehicles. I'll let Ms. Mabel Chen, the Permanent Secretary, answer the rest of the questions. For labor importation, we of course will prioritize local recruitment and local training. However, to address the acute manpower shortage, we have introduced some labor importation schemes. So the update is that we have disbursed 896 quotas, and for the airport authority, we have 6,300 quotas. We have approved 2,800 quotas. And before, as Mr. Chao Su-chung said, we have been liaising with the airport authority to work with the ERB, and we have set up a working group. We will make reports to the trade through that working group. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chan Soo-hong, please. Thank you, Chair. It was mentioned in the policy address that multiple transport infrastructure projects will be taken forward. I appreciate those. I can see that there is the enhanced 3 railways and 3 major roads proposal, as well as the newly proposed 2 major railways and 1 major road. So for the 5 major railways and 4 major roads, people are really concerned about the timetable. They may be undertaken at different times, but the expenditure, even when faced, is quite high. Can the administration really afford all these projects? I can see that you have a dedicated office to take forward such major infrastructure and consider the financing. So even with the financing aspect of things dealt with, will you have enough manpower to take forward all the projects? So can the administration elaborate on that aspect? And some other members are also concerned about this, and I can see that the administration has been trying to increase the number of temporary parking spaces. But I think the administration is only taking a bandage approach. I think we need a territory-wide parking space study, including parking spaces for private cars as well as commercial vehicles. But of course, we want to restrict the increase in the number of private cars. Do you not have enough of such measures in place? You can perhaps consider that in the study. And you also have to consider, for example, in the northern metropolis and new development areas, whether there are enough parking spaces for commercial vehicles. In relation to taxis, the trade is, of course, welcoming the $50 million fund to promote the use of EVs, and it is said that the administration will introduce 3,000 e-taxis in the next few years. But the problem is we do not have adequate charging infrastructure. Of course, that has to be mostly taken forward by the Secretary for Environment and Ecology. But in order to promote e-taxis, you need to do more. And we will only know the details when the blueprint is issued. But can the Secretary perhaps give us a sneak peek? And as mentioned in the policy address, we have to scale up capability in dealing with extreme weather, and it is said that MTRCL will be asked to review the suspension arrangements of Airport Express. But should we limit that to only railway lines? Should we also consider, say, buses, taxis? We, of course, don't want to encourage people to commute or drive their own cars in extreme weather, but we do not want to expose public transport drivers to risks. Thank you. Well, we do not have much time, so I'll be brief. For the first question about the 2 proposals for railways and major roads. Of course, the projects are going to be undertaken in many different years, perhaps 20 years or over 20 years. Regarding the cost and manpower, we will definitely consider that. We may consider using some public-private partnership models or railway plus property development models to alleviate the financial pressure. And as you said, Northern Metropolis brings about opportunities in terms of urban planning. And in fact, in the Hong Kong Planning and Standards and Guidelines, the HKPSG, we already have provisions for parking spaces. In relation to taxis, we will continue to liaise with the EEB. And in fact, in the Traffic and Transport Strategy Study, TTSS, we will talk about that as well. As for extreme weather, we of course do not want to send the wrong message that people can safely commute under Typhoon Signal number 9. We do not want to send that message. But for those that have already been waiting, how can we implement arrangements to deal with them? That's what we have to think about. All right, we have very tight time constraints. Next, Mr. Stanley Lee, please. Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank the Secretary because, as said in the Railway Development Strategy 2014, it was supposed to be extended to Po Lam. That definitely has not happened, but we have a proposal that has met us halfway by extending the route to Ma Yau Tong. But of course, we always want wider coverage when the detailed study is being undertaken. I hope that you'll take that into consideration. And I really hope that the targets in the RDS 2014, the Railway Development Strategy, can indeed be realized. I heard the Secretary say that it is difficult, but perhaps there can be a spur line that goes to various areas in East Kowloon. Would that be possible? So if a study is conducted and it is indeed found that there are difficulties, then we can tell the public that is indeed not feasible. I heard the administration's study estimate is that there will be an additional hundreds of thousands people in area 137 in Cheung Kwan O. So we really need a railway line that goes from Cheung Kwan O to Siu Sai Wan, because it takes time for you to conduct a study before even the works are undertaken. So will you consider that now? Thank you. Well, thank you, member, for your question. In relation to the routing, we will enhance the proposal during the detailed study stage. As for the question about Area 137, and at the end of this year, as I said earlier, we will publish the transport infrastructure blueprint. We will have some content about it in the blueprint, so please wait for a while. As for the part about spur line, I'll let the commissioner talk about that, or director talk about that. Thank you.
Mr. Lee asked whether we can have a spur line at Ma Yau Tong. During consultation, we received different views on how the smart and green mass transit system should run. there is constraint to its capacity. The reason why we have a heavy-duty railway to this smart and green mass transit system is because we have to address the challenges of climbing the terrain. Hopefully, by switching to this system, we can make the rail feasible in terms of the technology and cost. We've heard views that the system should cover Chiwanshan. We have considered the preliminary feasibility. There are too many challenges, in particular in old areas. There are too many existing buildings posing obstacles to the alignment. From Pak Yau, Ma Yau Tong to Po Lam, for instance, there is the problem of the terrain, and there are also buildings. These are constraints. But we will start the alignment first, start studying the alignment first. Further on, we will see whether there are possible ways of linking up with other areas. Mr. Yeo Pak Leung, thank you. I'm sure, Secretary, you know that I am concerned about the smart and green mass transit system in East Kowloon and Kai Tak. For East Kowloon, at long last, the government has returned so-called this railway to residents of East Kowloon. You have agreed to extend it to Yau Tong. This is something good. But what about Pick Wen Road on Lam Tin? Residents find it rather inconvenient to travel to Yau Tong Station and Lam Tin Station. I hope you can take care of this group of residents as well. Now I turn to Kai Tak. I hope you will not just regard it as a transit system for daily use. You should incorporate tourism elements as well. As we all know, it has a beautiful scenery, a sea view there. There will be the sports park, and we have the cruise terminal. It's an excellent place for developing tourism and culture and recreation and sports. So do not just regard it as a system for transport. You should take into account tourism needs of the area. Ms. Sari Lee also mentioned the following point. If we just link up the cruise terminal and Kai Tak, that is not good enough. Maybe in phase 1 we can start with this first, but in future, if we can extend the system to cover Yau Tong as well, then we will enhance the benefits of the system. According to the paper, we will start to invite expressions of interest from suppliers and operators in 2024. If you can include such options in the tendering documents, for instance, will tenderer be given priority if there is an option for the system to be extended to Yau Tong and Kwun Tong, given the beautiful sea view there, and so that it will be transport system as well as a tourism item. The paper has made little mention of sea transport. For Kai Tak, we do not have a sea route for crowd dispersal. At the tip of the runway, the industry has always held the view that there should be a pier. For instance, because of the landslip along Corrie and along Shekel Road, it was revealed that there was no alternative route for residents of Shekel to travel to the other parts of the town. So you have to consider a sea option as well. Thank you. There are a few issues. First, Pick Wen Road on Lam Tin. Because of the terrain, we find the proposal technically challenging. And if the system can be extended to Kwun Tong or Yau Tong, the system for Kai Tak. Now, when I responded to Ms. Starley's question, I said, now, if we have to make the system very long in order to cover old areas, and if the benefits in return are not high, that will make the whole system not viable. So let's be pragmatic. We should start with the current plan first before we explore whether there is room for the system to be further extended to Kwun Tong or even Yau Tong. Yes, that can be studied in future. For sea transport, at Kai Tak, we have taxi ferries. Of course, there are suggestions we are happy to discuss with Mr. Yu after the meeting to see how we can strengthen sea transport. I think piers mentioned by Mr. Yu are important. They can save the day when the time arises. Mr. Tang Ka-piu, I want to thank the Bureau for finally agreeing to go ahead with the smart and green mass transit system at East Kowloon. In fact, it was first called monorail. Now, we want to thank you because it goes to show that you attach importance to this. In the annex, we see a KPI. You would want to start the actual work within 2024. I'd like to know whether there is any hope for the tendering exercise and for the contract to be awarded within this term of government, i.e. before 2027. Do you have this target to start works before 2027? Secondly, for the alignment, of course, residents in the area we want to be included. You will hear demand that since you are going to cover Yau Tong, why not Lam Tin? Because there are 40 to 50,000 living along Pequan Road, and then a PRH development in Ko Chiu Road will start population intake very soon. Secretary, you come from the engineering sector. I'm sure you have the resources. Please see whether other residents can benefit from this system and give us the timetable, please. Lastly, will you intend to use the same operator for the East Kowloon system and the Kai Tak system to facilitate the merger or the linking up of the two systems in the future? Thank you. For Ko Chiu Road, Lam Tien, I will give the floor to the director for a further explanation. Well, for the system of Kowloon East, I am just as eager as you are, but we can't be definite today as to whether we can start the construction before the end of this term of government, because there are steps to go through. First, we have to invite expressions of interest, and later this year we have to start the design study before we tender the project. Depending on the outcome of the tendering exercise, we may have some faster option. For instance, for East Kowloon line, we have to work on existing roads such as Leon Road. There will be a viaduct for the system. So as of today, I won't be able to say definitely whether we can start the construction before 2027. Yes, Director, please be concise. We have seriously considered the alignment. We start from Yau Tong to Yau Tong East in the form of a tunnel. We're confident to do this, but if we have to cover Yau Tong and the housing developments there, as said by the secretary, we will have to cover existing roads, and we have to use viaducts. It all depends on the width of the road and whether there is enough room for emergency exits. But this is just a preliminary alignment. We will conduct in-depth studies and design later. Now, I'm afraid you cannot follow up because we're really running out of time. 7 members have yet to speak. I must let members go by 12:10. I may have to cut short your questions from now on. So please be concise and precise. Mr. Yim Kok. I want to thank the administration for advancing the scheme for northbound travel for Hong Kong vehicles. It is expected by 2037 there will be 42,000 trips northbound on a daily basis. Now for Human Bridge, right now the traffic is 150,000. So to enhance the capacity, will you allow vehicles to leave on the same day so as to do away with the need to make prior booking? Secondly, the government is committed to improving public transport. We may be the leader in the world in terms of railway services, but for taxi services, as mentioned by members, there is still room for improvement. And then during inclement weather, it was also difficult to catch a taxi, and there is also the need to accept e-payment on taxis. So will you improve this problem? And will you mandate all taxis to accept e-payment in the future? Thank you. Thank you for your question, Mr. Yim. Well, for northbound travel for Hong Kong vehicles, the booking has to be made 2 days ahead. We're seeing whether we can further shorten the time for the convenience of drivers. Still, we have to face this problem. Now, the Hong Kong-Macau Bridge is a bit different from the Human Bridge because Human Bridge is just an expressway with no exits. For Hong Kong-Macau Bridge, we have a few exits to Zhuhai, etc. Hopefully, users of the scheme can have a good traveling experience. So with booking arrangement, it will ensure a smoother commuting experience. For taxi services, as I said in my opening address, in early November, we just submitted a bill to the Council. In fact, the Bills Committee has completed a scrutiny of the bill, and we will resume the second reading debate of the bill at the Council as soon as possible. For taxi fleet services, we want the vehicles to be newer, and we will require the vehicles to be equipped with e-payment devices. the purpose is to enhance the quality of service so that more passengers can opt for taxi services.
And we do not have any plans to mandate all taxis to adopt e-payment methods. Thank you. Next, Dr. Aman Yu, please. Dr. Yang Wing-kit, please. Thank you for taking our suggestion in relation to having smart and green mass transit systems in East Kowloon and Kai Tak. Now, I do not ask for you to extend East Kowloon line to Chi Wan Shan. I just ask for new lines to be set up because we have 200,000 people living in Chi Wan Shan uphill areas. That's why there is great demand for transport services. Can you have one that goes to Chi Wan, Chuk Yun, and Wong Tai Sin? I think you can consider that. Because this proposal is more or less the same as that in East Kowloon. So an extension may not be feasible, but we would consider having new lines. I also thank the Secretary for taking our suggestion about other transport proposals. We hope that for the Kai Tak mass transit system, it can connect to other structures or areas in Kai Tak, for example, the commercial district in Kai Tak or the hospital. We hope that in future we can connect Yaotong Bay development projects to Yaotong Station. So there are great plans for Yaotong. There are public housing, private housing, and various other types of developments. So will you consider extending the monorail from Kai Tak that goes through Yaotong Bay and connect to eventually the Yaotong MTR station? Thank you. Well, for the smart and green mass transit system in different areas, I heard multiple suggestions made by members, and we'll definitely take into consideration all these suggestions. Well, but is it the case that we have to take everything into consideration in the first stage? Do we have to make everything happen immediately? Well, because there are various types of developments at different stages, I think we should just focus on the initiatives mentioned in the policy address. But we'll definitely take into consideration your suggestions and suggestions by other members. I think in future we still have many opportunities to communicate our thoughts with each other. And often we have to come to the Legislative Council to report our progress. And in fact, in private, we have often communicated with each other. And my colleagues and I will maintain close liaison with members of the council. So for what we have today, we should actively take forward the measures mentioned in the policy address. For those outside of the policy address, we will maintain close liaison with members. Next, Dr. Aman Yu, please. I continue to ask for a Lambton North Station. Why are you adopting a difficult approach of digging a tunnel instead? For Lambton North Station, you said there is technical difficulty with that. I'll leave more time for you to elaborate on what kind of difficulty there is. While we have maintained close liaison, when it comes to the specific difficulties, you do not elaborate on that. You just say that there is difficulty. So please elaborate on that. If you consider digging a tunnel, will you consider having more pedestrian facilities for residents in the neighboring area? And I want to know how much has the cost inflated by adopting this proposal. So you have plenty of time to respond to the questions. I'll have Mr. Chen answer that question. Director, please. We now adopt a tunnel approach for the proposal. For example, we need to have Maotong that goes uphill to Cheng Kuen O, and then it goes through Lintong to East Cheng Kuen O. If we do not take this route, we have to go through some other areas with existing residential or other developments. It may be difficult because most of the roads only have one lane. If we have to make use of viaduct, we need some space in existing roads to put this foundation or pillars of the viaduct. And we simply do not have adequate space for that in existing roads. And close to those roads, there are already existing structures or buildings, and the buildings are quite close to the roads. There is thus technical difficulty with constructing a viaduct. If we construct a structure on the roads that is at grade, there would be no need for us to consider a viaduct proposal in the first place. That was not possible, and that was not very convenient. If we put it underground, there are already existing tunnels, and the space is quite narrow. That is not possible either. If we put in a station close to the road, we will need to make sure it goes uphill, and technically it is difficult because we will need more connecting facilities in place, apart from increasing the cost. There's the problem of having inadequate space in the first place. So having reviewed such proposals, these are the difficulties that have to be tackled. We have not given up on other options at the moment. We have just proposed the most feasible proposal, and we will review the various options during the feasibility study. Thank you. Next, Mr. Tony Tse, please. Well, I want the administration to elaborate on paragraph 2 in the paper. It says that the government has all along been adopting the infrastructure-led and capacity-creating planning principles. Well, it's not just about planning, it's about the actual utilization of such transport infrastructure. And on the mainland, they often talk about connectivity. So we need to consider, apart from infrastructure, some connection to utilities. So can you elaborate on what the government's goals are specifically? And especially in the northern part of Hong Kong, once there is population intake, there do not have adequate ancillary facilities in place. They may not be entirely relevant to the scope of the work of the Bureau because it may be due to the fact that there are inadequate schools or other facilities. And for parking spaces, there is indeed a shortage of parking spaces as well. So you should answer this part of the question. And in relation to public transport, I can see that there is improvement with public buses, but for minibuses and taxis, I do not see any significant improvement, especially for taxis. It seems that the administration has turned a blind eye to the problems. When we talk about when there are more people booking taxis, why don't you have more such taxis? And the administration is doing nothing about these problems. So people can see that there are taxis with illuminated signs, meaning that they are available for hire, yet they do not stop to take passengers. So can the administration do something about these? Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Tonita. We have been taking an infrastructure-led approach. And in fact, in new development areas, we really need roads in place, because without roads, even if you have railway projects, that is not going to work because emergency vehicles can't access the area. So we definitely need roads first before we have other things. Apart from the transport of people, you have to ensure there can be transportation of goods. So you really need to have the roads in place for new towns. For the ancillary facilities, for example, provision of parking spaces. In fact, in the HKPSG, it specifies the relevant provisions. For example, in a neighborhood, how many parking spaces there should be. Once the roads are in place, we need public transport. For example, public buses, minibuses, and taxis. All along, I've been saying that railway projects take up much space. And once the projects have been set, there can't be much change to the projects. So we have been trying to take the approach of, while planning for projects, we have immediately implemented other planning for other facilities. Well, in relation to taxis, anything to say? Thank you. Well, when we talk about the details, we would liaise with members of trade as well as electrical members about the detailed arrangements. Thank you. We have less than 10 minutes. We have 3 members waiting to speak. I'll have 2 other members speak for 3 minutes, and I myself will speak for 2 minutes. Thank you. Mr. Lau Kwok Fan, please. I can see that there will be the transport infrastructure blueprint to be published at the end of this year. But while you have a blueprint, it does not mean that you are taking the infrastructure-led approach. I think you really have to expedite your works in order to implement the infrastructure projects. And of course, there is always room for improvement with the projects. It should be extended to Hongshui-Q, and then in the end, it should connect to Shuttlecock Boundary Control Point. And in the Northern Metropolis, you really should expedite the work's progress, especially with the Northern Link. Right now, Kutong Station is going to be completed in 2027, and the main line will be completed in 2034. But be it the Santin Technopole or the Loop, in fact, 3 towers will be completed in next year for the Loop. I think in 2030 the Sentin Technopole will more or less be ready. I think it will be too late to have the Northern Link main line ready in 2034. So will you enhance the speed of the construction projects, and will you commission the Northern Link in phases? For example, you can commission the spur line first and the Santin and Kutong station, so that the Santin Technopole and Fanling North and Kutong can start its operations. Thank you.
Secretary, with regard to the alignment of the Northern Metropolis Highway, whether it can be extended to Sha Tao Kok, we are still working on the planning. As I said, we hope to complete the plan and also the start the construction as soon as possible for the Northern Link. Yes, we are thinking of completing it in phases, but for railway projects, there are operational requirements. For instance, we need space to for a car park, for depot, for repair, maintenance, etc. All these have to be taken into account. But we will consider things like whether we can use prefabricated components for building the stations and for footbridges. Now we can use new technology. We are thinking of different solutions from the market to shorten the construction time. Mr. Holden Chow, thank you. Yes, I will be as quick as possible. I have two questions. One, involving our long-term planning. The policy address mentioned the construction of the Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail Link for Hung Shui Kiu and Qianhai. Now, that means from Hung Shui Kiu to Two Moon East to Sunny Bay and then to the artificial islands on Kao Yi Chao. Now, for the section from Hung Shui Kiu to Sunny Bay, well, it has got nothing to do with the artificial islands. Can you start that part first? Because if we can do it, then it will relieve some of the traffic in the region. So can that be possible? And the second question is a shorter consideration. The traffic in Two Moon hinges upon Two Moon Road to want Two Moon Bypass to be built as soon as possible, but the earliest is 2033. Tai Lam Tunnel will be recovered by the government very soon. Can you substantially lower the toll for Tai Lam Tunnel so that it can help to divert traffic and relieve congestion on Two Moon Road? Thank you. Secretary. The section from Hung Shui Kiu to Tai Lam, yes, we will consider that option. If it can be completed first, if it can operate on its own, then that can be considered. In 2025, we're going to recover Tai Lam Tunnel. And when it comes to the toll level, we have to look at the whole picture of traffic in northwest NT, covering the traffic density of Yuen Long, the Tuen Mun, and also that will have an impact on the toll levels. When we have some preliminary ideas, we will consult LegCo members. It's now my turn. I thank the administration for accepting our suggestion so that there will be connection for Chun Wan and the East Rail Line. There will also be stations at Northeast Chun Wan and also a Chun King circuit. I understand it takes time for you to complete the whole line. You first extend the Chun Wan line from Chun Wan Station to Chun King Circuit so that it can start to serve the public first. On importation of labor, it seems that so far there is no worker imported into Hong Kong yet. Can you tell us the progress for importation of labor and also the manpower needs of these projects? Thank you. Now, for the Central Rail Link and relevant facilities, they will be considered as a whole, including whether we can advance the completion of part of the sections. We will do that in the overall plan. For importation of labor for the transport sector, in late September, 98 applications involving 690 odd persons were considered, while 461 GMBs, minibuses, and 260 commercial vehicles, etc. While some of the positions have been filled and the application has been submitted to the Immigration Department. Once the Immigration Department has completed their visas for them, then there will be arrangement for road trials and tests. What is the processing time required by the Immigration Department? The department has been very helpful. It has undertaken to expedite the processing as soon as possible. You have to understand that we have special labor importation scheme covering the construction sector and the airport as well. So all cases passed to the Immigration Department has been dealt with very expeditiously. Thank you. In the interest of time, we have to end here. Thank you very much for your attendance.